charge stations.
Now? What?
They told the guys, and they're setting up their spaces right
Uh-huh.
now.
No.
But you're the asking, you're part of doing it.
No, it said, we said by 4 p.m. Is it 4 p.m.?
Go and see, you will see what I'm telling you.
Okay, well, tell them to come here for the presentation. That's fine. It's okay. They can move the tables there. That's fine. All right, guys. Took us a little longer than we thought, but we've got our live stream going. And I wanted to share with you about this 5 discovery skills. So if I could get everybody here, those who thought that they need to set up tables right now, if you could also get them, officers, get them all over here. Innovation lab officers, Inventathon, or inventor space officers, ask your folks to come here. I don't know, Roland, he can't hear me behind those. Nope, look, nope. If you can get people from that lab out here as well, and that way we'll show Ideator, 5 to 10 minutes of what it looks like and how you would register for it. It is an invite-only platform. So you will have to come by, or one person from your team will have to come by with email addresses for your teams, and we will have a laptop prepared where we could just send an invite to the community, and then we can have that available for our judges. So, are we getting most of the folks that are in and around the building? At least they're looking up. So, any guesses to what the discovery skills are to be innovative? Like, is there any thought? Like, are you going to go Google it? To be innovative, How do you really, Ashok Rao yesterday talked about all these, hummingbird effect, right? He talked about how things were intended for one, but they got applied for something else. And then, how do you get this creativity happen, right? What's the logic here? And this is a sort of a simple presentation. So what I like to do is I like to just think about them as 5 discovery skills. It's skills that all of us should have as students, as community members, as future leaders of our city and then of our world. These skills, I do believe, help us to be innovative, but they're not the only things that can help you. What I like to call this is how do you train to be innovative? So the 5 skills, they get broken into associating, questioning, observing, experimenting, and networking. A lot of you may be doing the top 4 already, just by being here. And then also networking, getting to know other people. Christian yesterday from BioMedX talked about this diversity, the importance of this diversity, that ideas get looked at from multiple perspectives. And all of us as students provide that perspective. We come from different backgrounds. Houston's a great place for this. So I'll go into each one with an example and also a quote. And my goal would be that I rush through this enough so that we cover this in about 10 minutes or less, or maybe 15 minutes or less. But if you have any questions or you have any ideas, this is not intended to be just a monologue one-on-one. I mean, just me to you. I would love for us to kind of talk about it. But again, the goal would be to try to wrap this up in 15 minutes, right? So, association, right? So associating things. What does that really mean? So any takers on what the word association or associating mean to you? Anybody? What does that word mean? Want to take a crack at it? You want to take a crack at it? You look like you're ready. What does it mean to you? I'll give you guys a second. All right. How about connecting things that don't seem to be related at first? They're unrelated, but somehow it makes sense. Think about ideas and problems from different fields. Merging fields like anthropology to computer science, networking. You may not realize, but today we use this technology as wireless internet. All of this is being broadcasted through pretty much like all this wireless technology. But in order for this wireless technology to work, someone actually studied ants and nodes and how ants behaved and how they got the message that food is here to the entire colony from one node to another. It's connecting those subjects is how you could be innovative. So the skill of association really means, learn as much as you can about different subjects, be open to learning different things. Even though it may seem weird or boring, you never know how it could help you connect that unrelated thing to your invention. So while we're talking about health, you never know if that solution for health comes through, other subjects. And that is the skill of association. So there is a guy that some of you may know, but he was responsible for Apple and some of the products that you're using. In fact, I'm using. Steve Jobs said that creativity really is about connecting things. So think about that for a second. Innovation really is creativity that works, right? Simply put, I also extend it and say innovation is creativity that works at the right time for the right people. Some ideas come too early, then they get shot down. Some ideas come, for the wrong group of people. The people are not ready for it, right? So it's also like time. So you have to think about that when you're working on your ideas and projects. That's why they say an entrepreneur has to be resilient, because people may not get it. You may, have a great idea that doesn't get commercialized. It may not work, but it's okay. Got to do it again. And yesterday, Ashok Rao mentioned that another gentleman beat Thomas Edison by 20 years when it came to a technology. I forgot the technology right now. But you remember him saying 20 years ago, but when Thomas Edison took that technology and made it work, and I think it was with sound, that's when it got really adopted. So some of the inventions that you may be coming up with today may not get, like any traction. People may not even understand it. But that's okay. That's the pain of being an innovator or even an entrepreneur if you're trying to commercialize it. But you got to deal with that. So, great people have said that, here's my tip. Like, what can you do, right? So imagine that, I'm just going to read that slide. I can't see it there. But imagine how someone from other subjects would look at the problem from a new perspective. This is really like putting yourself in other people's shoes. And sometimes it's best to just ask the neighbor sitting next to you and talk to other people, even if they're not part of your team. You never know what you can learn from others. Especially like yesterday, we had this conversation about, how do we take gels and electricity and make stuff happen and prevent foot injuries for athletes. And he asked me if I was a medical person, if I had any background in medicine, and I don't. I'm a marketer. But then we had this great conversation, and we thought we found something. Sometimes our perception makes us think that we know the answer, but unless we talk about it, unless we actually go discover and give the other person a chance to explore with you, that we may not be as innovative as we think we are if we do not appreciate the diversity sitting around us. So make it a point today that as you're walking in the hallways and as you're talking with other people about your ideas, be as open to understand their ideas. Talk to them. And then it's always a great idea to talk about how do you make each other's ideas better. Am I okay? Does that make sense? Like what we're trying to do, right? Thanks for nodding. That helps. All right. So this is an activity I'm going to skip for now. I'm going to give you how, things. I once had a guy that once told me that, I was young enough, foolish enough that I was believing in something. I was really trying to push for it. And he told me that, Ravi, you're trying to fit a square into a round peg, right? So you're trying to put a square solution in a round hole. And that stuck to me, right? He's like, why is he saying that? And he's like, well, whatever you're trying to offer, it just doesn't work. And since then, I take it upon myself to try to be creative and innovative. And this was a little solution where, how do you get, a fruit like watermelon to be in square and still maintain its nutrients, still maintain its portability and the shelf life? And then the answer was, well, you just grow the watermelon in a square box. So you would just confine the watermelon as it's growing, and then you would end up with a square watermelon. And this is actually something that was implemented and commercialized. The watermelon was too heavy, but not only that, but it was the shapes, so that you can get small, you can large. You couldn't commercialize it easy. But there along comes an inventor without affecting anything else but the shape of the watermelon. The quality, the taste, everything's the same. They just made it different. And then now I think about this and I say, hey, I can get a round object through a square hole just by using math and other options, right? So there's all these things when you think about association. So let's talk about questioning. So I don't have to ask a question about the questioning. I think you get this one. So there's something we said about being curious. As human beings, we're all curious. But it takes a certain amount of entrepreneur, innovator, to actually think about the right questions. There's no wrong questions, but there are definitely a thought process in how you ask that question. It means you're aware of what's happening, and if you're not, then you have to learn, you have to go research. But there's also the process of being helpful and being kind. When you ask questions, you have to think about how am I going to be helpful when I ask that question, not just to myself, but to the person answering it. Don't want to be the smart guy that just knows all the technical answers but don't know the innovative answers. At the same time, don't want to be the guy that asks all the technical questions when it doesn't lead to any innovative answers. You got to ask the questions. No wrong answers. But you got to think about if you can be kind and helpful to the person you're asking that question to. And that only happens is when you're fully aware of what's being asked. So you got to think of that process. So what is questioning? Well, it's really just asking questions to understand how things really work, why things are like the way they are today, and how, you may already know this, but what, who, what, when, all those are the simple things that, you start sort of the questions with. But then here's the guy that talked about, now Peter Drucker is actually a business, a textbook author, and he talks about the important and the difficult job is never to find the right answers, but rather to find the right questions. So sometimes it's asking the right questions that's more important than knowing the answers. So as innovators, I think you should be focused on not just giving the answers, but rather asking the right questions. All right, here's a tip. Just brainstorm a ton of questions as you're looking at objects or problems to solve. Write them all out. But then pick the best ones and move forward. You could also have some sort of a list every night before going to bed, or maybe in the morning. You could have this process where just think through what happened in the day. Just write a bunch of questions about why did this happen. If you have a pain point like you don't like, maybe you don't drive yet and you wish you could drive, and all the issues happened because you couldn't drive. Like what you missed out on. Or maybe you take the bus, or maybe just whatever pains you have in life, you just write them out, then forget about it. Next day, third day. After a week, go back to those questions. Think about those questions again. And then think about solutions to those questions. And then sometimes what will happen is you'll be able to group some questions together, and then you'll be able to create a solution that solves a problem for you, which can actually be turned around and can solve problems for others. Just by questioning things and writing it out and having just sort of like a pains list every day, this was an issue. Maybe you got a bad grade and you write, why did you get a bad grade? Man, YouTube and Facebook are distracting. That's a problem. Well, it's not a problem just for you. But don't try to solve it right then and there. Make a list, think through it, shorten the list of questions, really get to the right issue at cause here, and then try to solve for it. So again, the questions that all of you know. And then the third skill. I think observing is very important. Sometimes, just by watching others, you can learn a lot. From Ashok being here yesterday, a guy who sold his companies from $100 million and plus, has, took a company to public. A fantastic individual. But just by watching him, what he was saying, how he pronounced those words so well, like he was talking about this ancient history, and just watching that person, you can learn a lot just by observing, watching your teachers, watching each other, watching a process happen. How does this Inventathon happen with all these volunteers? Just watching it. Watching Nikhil as he's, planning out what he's doing. And then understanding the process. Observing becomes really important because that is you carefully watching the world to help gain insights. And then ideas into doing things new way. You have to realize that Ashok yesterday said, Earth's been around for like 2.3 billion years. It's been fine without us, and it will probably be fine after us. Nature is fantastic. If you just watch what's happening, you can learn a lot. And like I said about just watching ants and animals and adopting that nature into technology, into your solutions today, you can gain a lot of insights just by putting things away and just observing. If your goal is ever to be a restaurant owner, I urge you to go sit in a restaurant. Count the number of orders people are getting. See how many per average tickets are being. Even the guy that had the food truck yesterday, you may not know, but he made 52 sales from you guys. And the average sale was $10 a ticket. In 2 hours or 3 hours, he made $520 on average. You have to realize those things. You guys are mathematically smart, but at the same time, you have to now think by observing, how could that math be applied? Okay? So let me breeze through this tip. Pick an idea you admire, observe it. And then find out everything you can about it. Lucky for you, you have YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and so many other things where you can actually follow some of the best people in the world on that subject. It's available to you. In the past, people had to go into libraries and read books that were probably like 10-year or 30-year-old. Today, you can get insights instantly. For example, Ashok Rao yesterday, his video was watched 1,500 times yesterday. Just within the past 24 hours, it's already been broadcasted. 1,500 people had seen that video, an hour and 30 or 40 minutes that he spoke. That is available to you now. So use that to your advantage. Don't go crazy, but at the same time, get in that field and get super knowledgeable about it. Experimenting. You're here for this, right? You know the scientific process for experimenting. Have a hypothesis, right? Validate your research. And then here's something to be said about that. Can I get my phone? It's probably one of you. So constantly visiting new places, trying new food, being open to different cultures and ideas. I don't have to tell you this in Houston. You got this. Experimenting, we're top-notch city. But our goal really becomes learning new things and learning new perspectives. So here's a tip from our friend Thomas Edison. Anytime you fail, it's okay. You just found out one way that it doesn't work. So I haven't failed. I just found 10,000 ways that it does not work. So it's actually like flipping it and looking at it in a positive nature. Your goal should be to celebrate failure. Every time you fail, celebrate it. That's great, because now you know one less way, or one more way actually, that it doesn't work. So you're one step closer to making it work. Isn't that right? So in that case, celebrate failure and experiment. Experiment as much as you can, especially at this age. This is the time. So the tip, explore the world by engaging in new activities. Thanks for being here at the hackathon, right? It's a new activity, but now your goal becomes get other people to follow you, right? Join new social or professional activities beyond your normal scope. And in your case, beyond your school, which again you guys are doing already. So I've mentioned experimenting, you got this nailed down. So last and least, networking. Why is networking important? I mentioned earlier that it's that different perspective, but it also is, making relationships. One of the best things school will offer you is not the education in the classroom, but rather the friends that you make in your classroom. I tell you that the importance of that, some of my best friends today, they're successful entrepreneurs. They're doing a lot of things in the world. They came because of me meeting them in school. I learned a lot in school, but I got educated by my friends. If that makes sense. So I want you to think about that and just network, make friends, be open to it. You never know who's going to be working on the billion-dollar idea and he needs to hire, or he needs a co-founder, or the other way around. So lucky for you, again, the whole world is open to you. You could be on LinkedIn, you can be on Facebook, you can make new friends, and you never know. So I'm going to just recommend the tip there becomes make friends and build on relationships. Okay? And then, of course, be helpful and be kind to each other. So, any questions, comments, suggestions? Are we ready for today? Yes? Does that make sense? All right, I'll just put it up there for us one more time. Oops. We had more. Let's go make something. So day 2, once again, by 4 o'clock, we want to make sure you guys are in the hallway. Don't set up the tables now. Closer to 4 o'clock, when no one's here, go ahead and set up the tables. And then we will be using a tool called Ideator. I do need one person from each team, probably by noon, to come by and get registered. And then you can work on the submission on your own laptops. But it is an invite only. And let me show you what it looks like. Similar to Hacker Earth that we used last time, all your ideas will be captured here. The benefit of being here is that it will start to match people with potential mentors from the community. As we add more mentors, such as Ashok Rao and Christian and others, they will be able to see the ideas that you're working on. And you can have small, short goals. And as you meet those goals, as you get more teams loaded up in here, we will be able to see the progress your companies are making or your ideas are making. Hopefully, down the line, you turn this into a project or you commercialize it or you do something wonderful with it. But even if you don't, that's fine. It's just one way, right? So once again, by noon, just come by, at least one person from the team, and bring email addresses of all your team members so I can get you the invite to Ideator. We will be using this tool. The only way to participate in the competition for tonight or this evening, and then once again, top 7 will be selected from this through the judges. Okay, so are we okay? Question-wise, all right? Yes, yes. So I actually don't know how many groups we have because some of you are individuals and some of you are representing 5 to 6 people teams. It should just be 5, no more than 5, I think. But so I don't know. We're going to find out after. In Ideator, we're going to put the Inventathon collection. So the collection will have all the teams. Last year, we had 21 ideas, and top 7 pitched up here. And then, you guys know top 3 will get cash prizes. So I don't know yet. We'll find out. But I would assume probably 15-ish. Or more. Okay? So that's all I had for you. Like I said, we may have a Bitcoin session. If we do, we'll just move it into a classroom and then talk about blockchain and how that works, how you could apply it towards help. And I hope you had a great day yesterday. But that's all I have for you now. So back to the music and go and explore and have fun.